everyone, my name's Takeo and welcome to the channel. I hope everyone's having a splendid day today. Now before we get into today's video, I would just really like to say if you do enjoy my content, be sure to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and also hit that bell for all future posts. Now in today's video, we are just going to be talking about the 6 elite bosses that can currently be found in Genshin Impact. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Now the first boss we are going to be talking about is the Pyro Regis fight. Obviously from the name, this boss's element is Pyro and is honestly the easiest elite boss to fight along with the Cryo Regis fight because they're almost the same, just with slightly different attacks and attack patterns. Now before I continue with saying what I want to say, I do want to give a big shout out to my friend for helping me out with this video. He led me onto his world because he had all the elite boss locations unlocked along with a majority of the teleportations unlocked, so I will be leaving all of his social media links in the description below so that you guys can go follow, subscribe, and do whatever else you guys are going to do. So let's get on with it. Now when going into this boss fight, me and my friend ran 2 Hydro characters for Vaporized, an Electric character for Overload, and 1 Nemo character for whatever it is Nemo can do against Pyro. Now as soon as you start fighting this elite boss, a weak spot on the bottom stem of his body will pop up and the health bar will be there. Now what's going to happen is you're obviously going to keep on hitting that weak spot until it hits 0, and once the health bar hits 0, he will be stunned for a short period of time so that way you can unload all the damage you want onto him. Now after getting back up from being stunned for the first time, a second weak spot is going to become visible. This weak spot will be located the center petals on its upper body. Now there are 2 ways to hit this secondary weak spot. The first way is taking your ranged character like Fish Shield or Amber and taking shots at the weak spot at the center of the petals, or waiting until the boss does the attack to where he slams his face into the ground, leaving his weak spot completely exposed so that way you can unload all the damage you want and then stunning him again, giving you that short period of time to do all the damage you want. Now the next boss we're going to be talking about in today's video is the Rodeo Avlak, who is a Hydro based elite boss and honestly is not that complicated or difficult to fight. Now I say that this boss isn't crazy difficult or complicated to fight because you're not even really fighting the boss, because the boss is kind of just flying around the arena that you're fighting in, but what it is doing is summoning groups of ads that you have to kill to actually do damage to the boss. But other than that, the only real crazy thing that this boss does is take off pieces of the floor whenever it loses a certain amount of health. And the most annoying thing I would have to say about this boss fight are the boar enemies that summon. It's just hydro boars that are extremely tanky and they can actually do a decent amount of damage, but we were able to get through it pretty easily because I was running Electric Pyro and my friend was running Cryo and a Nemo. But overall, this boss isn't crazy difficult to fight. You should have no difficulty fighting it if you go in with the right elemental team. Now the next elite boss we will be talking about is the Electro Hypostasis, who was one of 3 cubed elemental bosses on this list, this one being Electric, the other one being Geo, and the last one being a Nemo. Now me personally, I do get a lot of enjoyment and I really do have a lot of fun whenever I fight this boss because this boss offers a variety of attacks, has good attack patterns, and when I first started fighting him, it was a bit difficult because I did not understand them, but once I started to really pay attention and understand his patterns, I really started to enjoy the boss fight because at that point we were just melting him like it was nothing. Now the first thing I'm going to talk to you guys about is his rock, scissors, and almighty paper combo, and I call it that because the first attack of this combo is he tries to attack you with a big fist. Very easy to dodge though, but if you get hit by it, it will do a significant or good amount of damage. The second attack he tries to hit you with is it morphs into a pair of scissors and tries to chop you up. Also very easy to dodge, also can do a good amount of damage. And the last attack he tries to hit you with is the almighty paper, where he just morphs into a hand and just slams on the ground with a decent radius. If you don't dodge it, can do good damage, but after this whole combo he will become vulnerable to do all the damage that you want to. Now what you guys are seeing on the screen right now is another one of the boss's attacks, to where it lays itself onto the ground in the circle and then takes 4 of the cubes and just shoots lasers and just spins around. This is very easy to go up against because the lasers go around very slowly and it is also vulnerable to just go up and do all the damage you want to. Now one little thing to add on to that last part, don't stay in the middle too long because as you just saw, he did kind of like a slam attack that did a good amount of damage. So get the damage that you want, but just don't stay in the middle too long, especially if your character has a low amount of health. This boss also has a drill attack where he turns into a drill and goes a decent distance to try to attack you. He also has a projectile attack, and the last thing about this boss fight is when it gets to a short amount of health, you need to use your abilities to destroy the little electric things that are surrounding the gem. If you don't do this, he's going to regen health. Now, the next boss we're going to be talking about on this list is the Pyro Regis find, and honestly, there's not really much to say about this boss because it's just a reskin of the Pyro Regis find, except in the cryo element. He has the same attacks, the same weak spots, bottom of the stem, center of the petals. The only difference that I see in this boss is that if you go way too far from it, while say like you're trying to regen health or eat during the fight, he will use a ranged attack on you. But other than that, there's nothing really too crazy or much to talk about this boss fight. What we have up next is the Electro Hypostasis, which is the second out of 3 Elemental Cube boss fights, other than the Geo boss fight, which will be coming up soon, and the Electro boss fight, which we had already talked about. Now, to me, this boss fight is another boss fight that I do enjoy going up against and get a lot of fun out of it, because this boss offers a number of unique attacks and has a lot of factors into it that make the fight more interesting, such as even stopping it from attacking you completely. Now, this boss fight can offer a level of difficulty if you're not careful around the attacks, because the patterns can be kind of all over the place, and the attacks that this boss does can do a significant amount of damage, but some of these attacks, if not most of them, are very easy to avoid. The first attack we're going to be talking about with the Electro Hypostasis is the attack where he sucks you in, does damage over time, and if you're in the center for too long, it will explode. Now, while you're in the center, you can do damage to him, but I personally would suggest trying your best to just dodge out of that radius of him sucking you in, so you don't take a significant amount of damage. And I'm pretty sure that there is a short period of time after that attack to where you can go in and dish out the damage you want to do. The second attack we are going to talk about with the Electro Hypostasis is where he will place himself in the middle and launch out a barrage of tornadoes. Now, these are pretty easy to dodge because they do go at a very slow speed. However, they are very clustered up together, but what I would suggest when dodging these tornadoes is to try to stay on like the very outskirts of the arena, but not go all the way out, because you don't want to risk not doing damage to him while outside that arena. Next thing you know, his health resets and you gotta do the fight all over again. Now, what you're looking at on the screen right now is the state slash attack of the Electro Hypostasis, to where it will make itself completely vulnerable to all attacks, but it also leaves all these enable symbols throughout the arena. And what these enable symbols do is become a part of its attack, to where it slams underground, causing a shockwave that has a good radius and can do a significant amount of damage. So the first thing that I would do is just try to get some good distance away from it so you don't take that damage, because he does do this attack over and over and over again, depending on how many enable symbols are left on the field. Now, if you want to prevent this, what I would suggest is going to the 2 random wind currents that spawn in the arena, collect the enable symbols. If you don't collect them all, that's fine. You can just collect some of them so it doesn't do it as much, so you don't take as much damage. But if you collect them all, then it won't be able to do any damage at all, and I'm pretty sure there will be a period of time to where you can do damage to it. One last attack that I remember from the Electro Hypostasis is when it morphs into a crystal butterfly, flaps its wings at you, and hits you with wind currents. Now, these wind currents can do a good amount of damage to you. However, it is very easy to avoid because you can just kind of see it coming. It's not really the fastest attack in the world. Also, one final thing about the Electro Hypostasis boss fight is in the final stage, when you get to a sliver of health, what will happen was the boss will go to the center of the arena, summoning a number of enable symbols and a number of wind currents. You have to use these wind currents to collect the enable symbols in the center of the arena. If you don't collect them all, it will regenerate a certain amount of health depending on the amount of enable symbols that you did not collect. If you collect all the enable symbols, you win the boss fight. The last cubed elemental boss fight that we have on this list is the Geo Hypostasis, and to me this boss fight is not really that fun to go up against because there's nothing really that this boss brings to the table that makes it interesting. But what you will be doing in this boss fight at the beginning is you will notice that the boss will be at the center of the arena, and a little bit after he will summon pillars from the ground. So obviously what you have to do is what you're seeing on the screen right now, and that is going around the arena and destroying these pillars. Your best bet is to go with a great sword character like Chung Yun or Razor, because great sword characters are really good up against Geo. Now, if I'm not mistaken, there are instances when the Geo Hypostasis is on these pillars to where he does become vulnerable, giving you the ability to dish out some good damage with a ranged character like Amber, Fischl, or even Venti if you do have him. A quick little tip I would give you guys when going into this boss fight is when it comes to the pillars. When you're destroying the pillars, don't destroy them completely. As you guys see in the clip right now, we're just getting the pillars to low amounts of health, so that way when the Geo Hypostasis teleports one of these pillars, we can just destroy it, and that puts him in the period of time to where we can dish out all the damage we want onto him. From what I remember, this boss fight has 3 different attacks, and they're all while he's on top of the pillars. Another reason why you should try to get rid of them quickly, because he will keep attacking if these pillars are not destroyed. One attack that you'll take note of in this boss fight is what you're seeing on the screen right now, when the pillars around the arena will start causing shockwaves that have a good radius and will do a significant amount of damage if you're not careful. But all you gotta do really is just stay out the radius and you'll be just fine. Or if you want to stop the attack completely, is one of the pillars will spawn in a cluster of yellow cubes that you can destroy with a ranged character or ranged attack, and it will stop the shockwaves completely. The second attack that this boss likes to do is when it's on top of the pillar, morphs into a hammer and will target you or other players if you are playing co-op. This attack really isn't much to worry about because it's very easy to dodge. However, if you do get hit by it, it can do a good amount of damage to you. The last attack that this boss does is when it shoots a barrage of rocks at you that don't do a good amount of damage, but because of the speed of the rocks that are being shot at you, it can drain you of your health very quickly. Also, I'm just now realizing about the Rodeo Hypostasis hammer attack is that it does have a radius and it also does have a ranged after effect where it goes out 3 ways, and those 3 ways can do damage to you, so I apologize for that. I did not catch that while editing the video, but just be more cautious when you see it morph into the hammer. Also, while editing, I'm just now catching all of this, so I do apologize for any misinformation about this boss fight, but as you guys are seeing on the screen right now, it is summoning a barrage of cubes that are lined up in the middle of the arena. And these cubes also do have a radius to them, so just be careful, stay on the outskirts and you'll be just fine. One last thing about this boss is, like the other 2 cube bosses we discussed earlier on in the video, is that it does have a special task in order to actually defeat it. And what you have to do is when the Rodeo Hypostasis places itself in the middle, it is going to surround itself with 3 pillars. All you have to do is destroy those 3 pillars and you have officially defeated the boss. Now the final boss on this list is Andreas, the Dominator of Wolves, and the only way you can actually unlock this elite boss fight is through the Razor mission in the story. And what will happen is you'll fight the boss for a little bit until you get him down to about 25% health, and then the boss fight will stop completely, but you will notice that Andreas pops up on your map whenever you pull it up. Now Andreas is a very fun boss to go up against because he has a unique set of attacks. Like for example, that first attack he just did is when he'll growl twice and dash towards you very fast. Another thing that's so interesting about Andreas is that he actually mixes up his attacks, because usually with that dash attack he'll do it 2 or 3 times, but sometimes he will go into his pounce attack like he did just then. By the way, his pounce attack does have a radius and it shows up before he does actually land his pounce, so that gives you a small window to actually dodge and get out the way and not take the damage. Another attack that Andreas does that you really don't need to worry about unless you're close range with a character like Noelle, who uses her shield for close quarters combat, is his swoop attack, where he basically just swoops his tail around and tries to hit you. Now like I said, you don't really need to worry about it unless you're really up close, but just be aware of this attack. Now Andreas actually has another attack that's like his swoop attack with his tail, except he tries to slash at you with his claws. Once again, don't really worry about it unless you're really close range, and just be aware of whether or not he's going to do it. Something that Andreas does in his boss fight, which makes it way more interesting and fun, is that he will go towards the outskirts of the arena and start circling you at a very fast speed, and from time to time he will stop and do that dash attack that we talked about earlier. Now if you want to prevent this dash attack from going all the way through, all you gotta do is take a charged arrow, shoot at him, and it'll make him go back to the outskirts and start circling you again, and you just have to keep on doing that until he goes back to his normal attacks. As you guys are fighting Andreas and bring his health down, once he hits 50%, he will actually go into a second state to where he changes up his attacks completely. He has more range attacks, is more aggressive. He actually shrinks the fighting arena. If you try to go outside the radius of the fighting arena that you're stuck with, you will take damage over time. Overall, Andreas does bring a level of difficulty because of how quickly he switches up his attack patterns. He mixes up a lot, but I personally think that's a very fun boss fight and is in my top 3 of the elite boss fights on this list. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video about the 6 elite boss fights that can currently be found in Genshin Impact. If you did enjoy, I would really appreciate if you commented, liked, and subscribed, and also hit that bell for all post notifications. If I missed anything on this boss fights, please leave it in the comment section below so that I can know for when I go back in and fight these boss fights, because I really do enjoy fighting these bosses and I really do enjoy playing Genshin Impact in general. But as always guys, I hope you guys have a splendid day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.